What's up, guys? Um, it's almost 3 in the morning right now. I kind of wanted to make something more chill, but something that is also very important to me, and that's a video game that I've played for many years, and that game is called Dark Souls. And you're probably wondering why I'm making this type of video like this, where I'm in my bed, I'm laying down, I'm chill, I'm just kind of recording. I don't know. I wanted to get deep, I guess, on how I feel about this game and stuff, and kind of just get more personal. The first time I've ever heard about Dark Souls was back when Pewdiepie actually made a gameplay like walkthrough. Not really a walkthrough, but it's just like a gameplay video where he does like parts and stuff from the start to the end of the game. And that was really the first time I've ever heard and seen of Dark Souls 1. I mean, I thought it was super interesting and looked pretty cool, and it's a game that I've never played that type of game. I know I mostly played like Call of Duty, Minecraft, just like the most played games by really any kid at that time. But I decided to try the game out myself and see if I really like it. And the first time I've ever played it actually was on the PlayStation 4. That's when the remaster came out. So the game, from the time, it's a weird thing. So from the time that PewDiePie made the playthrough and to the time where the remaster of Dark Souls 1 came out, it was like a 4 or 5 year gap or something. I could have played it on my PlayStation 3, which I had, I think, if I remember correctly. I must have had it. I didn't. I don't know why I didn't, but I've waited till the remaster, and that's when I first played it. Was on the PS4, like the start of high school, maybe like the end of middle school, the start of high school. That's when I played it for the first time. So before that, I played Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne. I played after Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, I played Dark Souls 1, and then Dark Souls 2, and so on. Playing Dark Souls 1, I got into medieval stuff pretty heavily, actually. And not just that, I got into Berserk, which is actually one of my all-time favorite animes. I started reading Berserk during high school for the first time, and it was such a brutal story. It was something different. I've never read anything like that before. And I've realized that a lot of the things that are in Dark Souls were heavily inspired by Berserk. So when I played the games, I started looking at enemies or locations. I was like, hey, that looks exactly like that one chapter in Berserk or whatever. It was super cool. And then, I mean, like, everybody knows that now, but at the time, it was like whoa, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that, And I don't remember what kind of build I had. It was probably pretty shitty. I didn't know anything about that, like builds, weapon scaling, weapon upgrades. Well, I knew about upgrading your weapons, but I don't know about, like boss souls, transfer, like making boss weapons, the like weapon weaknesses to each boss. I didn't know shit about that. I just played the game, and I probably dumped like stats into like the most random things, like points into the most random stats. That probably made the game harder for me than it already was as a first timer. And so when I first played Dark Souls 1, it really opened up my mind into like new things and how these games exist, and like they're so difficult, they're hard, but yet they make you want to like finish the game. And especially when I first played, I mean, the build I had was, like I said, was pretty shitty. It was probably bad, but yeah, I finished the game. You know, like it gave me like a sense of accomplishment, which I didn't really feel with past games. So I think that's what drove me into finishing these games and playing the other titles from this company, from Soft Games. And I remember when I first completed Dark Souls 1, I started reading up more into like vlogs, more into lore about Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and then later on like Sekiro and Elden Ring, Demon Soul. I mean, there was so much story to those games that you could just watch hours of lore and videos about it, and it's just all interesting. You know, it's like dark stories, but they're all very interesting. And I mean, after Dark Souls 1, I completely got like super hooked. And it's crazy because before, like I said, before Dark Souls 1, I played Dark Souls 3 and then Bloodborne, and those games are very different. They're very fast paced. The worlds are a lot bigger than Dark Souls 1. There's more variety. It's just a whole different. It's like the same concept, like the base is there, but it's completely different. You know, Dark Souls 1 came out, what, 2011? And then those other games came out in 2014. Bloodborne came out in 2014, I believe. And then Dark Souls 3 came out in 2016. So that's like years, you know, it's like years of development or like upgrades. You know, I love those games. I absolutely love those games. But Dark Souls 1 was different. It was slower in a way. It's not slow where it's boring, but it's slower comparing to those games. Dark Souls 1 was very special to me was because during the time where I played Dark Souls 1, I was going through a rough time. I think I'm pretty sure I was starting high school, and then I just finished middle school. Middle school for me was horrible. It was shit. It was just so bad. It was shitty. I hated it. And so I started high school, and everything was new, and I was going into this school that I knew was good. It was a good school. I was going from a very shitty school to a really good school. And so everything felt different. I felt out of place in a way. At home, there was a lot of just problems, arguments, just disagreements. My parents were going through a divorce, and it was just really hard. It was a hard time. And, you know, I was getting bored with games. You know, games would have been my escape, but it really wasn't. It was just really hard. And so Dark Souls 1, it gave me that escape that I needed at that time. I feel like that's why it's so special to me. That the Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 1 is just so calming. Like I would have my headset on, and I'll just be sitting there, like my hands just together, and just lean back on my chair and just listen to music. You know, it's so calming. But it's not better than Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2's Firelink Shrine, or Majula, where it's called. It's top tier. I love Dark Souls 2. I don't care what anybody says. Dark Souls 2 was fun. It had its flaws, and it's probably the weakest out of all of the Soulsborne games, but it was still a good game. And honestly, it's better than most games nowadays, okay? Dark Souls 2 was not bad. I don't care what anybody says. It was not horrible, okay? It affected my life more than I realized. You know, it gave me that idea where I can't quit. I have to keep going. I gotta keep pushing it, you know, I gotta keep going, because if I quit, you know, I don't finish the storyline or the game or whatever. You know, obviously I'm not seeing life as a game, obviously not. But it gave me that, I don't know, motivation idea where I gotta keep going. I gotta keep pushing. You know, I can't quit. You know, I feel like everybody has something that affects them more than anything in life, and to me, Dark Souls 1 is it's my thing that affected me the most. But that's all I have to say. I mean, I wanted to make this video for quite a while, and I mean, yeah, hopefully you guys can relate. And I mean, if you got something that affects your life or changed your life, I guess, in a way, let me know in the comments. You know, I'll read about it. But that's all I have to say. Other than thank you, Dark Souls, for changing my life. Thank you. Okay, I want to go to sleep now.